Hello and welcome to the Integrative Health Convention 2019 online interviews. Today we're going to find out more about play therapy with Gammage, who is speaking at the Integrative Health Convention 2019 on the weekend of the 5th and 6th of October at the Park Plaza, Victoria in central London. So this is Gammage.
Hello.
Hi, and Dai is a play therapist, drama therapist, Buddhist psychotherapist, and child psychotherapist.
That's right.
And she's the author of Playful Awakening, Releasing the Gift of Play in Your Life.
Yeah.
And she can be found at www.playful-awakening.org, and I'll put the links down below. Hi, Dai.
Hello there.
Shall we begin by letting the audience know a bit more about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so I originally trained as a drama teacher, and I knew very quickly that I didn't want to go into schools, into the education system, because I found it far too rigid and restrictive and over focused really on the end results. So I became a residential social worker and worked with, before I became a residential social worker, I worked in a charity for ex-offenders and non-school attenders. And we set up a project for non-school attenders who came every single day to the project. Sometimes they were sitting for, 8:30 in the morning, sitting on the steps of the building waiting to come in. So these were non-school attenders. So there was clearly something that we were getting right at Apex Trust that schools were not getting right for these young people. So they came along and we did lots of different activities, but one of the things that they really enjoyed doing was working through drama and talking about their lives and engaging in role plays and creating stories and dramas and writing poetry and painting and dancing. They were big dancers. They would bring their big, what we used to call ghetto blasters, and they would teach us to dance. So what I knew then for certain was the power of play and creativity. And I see play as the wellspring for what may become drama or poetry or art or dance or sculpture or lots and lots and lots of different things. But for me, that essence of play that allows us to enter a different space, a different reality to this everyday reality, where people can experiment and explore and try things out that have no consequences in this everyday reality. And what I saw was these young people actually searching for meaning in their lives, trying to understand who they are, who they were as 15, 16-year-olds who, in their eyes, had failed. They had failed in the system rather than the system failing them. And I really wanted to support them in kind of taking back their own power to say, actually, this is the life that I want to live for myself. So supporting them in imagining what they wanted, what did they want from their lives. And we did that through play. The thing about play as well is it's playful, it's fun, and people can only play if they want to play. No one can make anybody play. And so, if someone didn't want to take part, play is an invitation. And I love that because by the very fact that it's an invitation, we can say yes or we can say no. And if we say no, that's fine. If we say yes, we're kind of stepping into that space and opening to uncertainty, the unknown. And we don't know what we're going to find there. So play is not about we're going to end up with this final product. It's we're going to engage in this process and see where it takes us. And there might be a final product, but there might not be. So that was kind of my grounding, really, in awakening to the power of play. And then since then, pretty much everything that I've done the last 35 years of my life has been about cultivating play and its different forms in my personal life and my professional life. Yeah.
I was going to ask you how you got interested in what you do, but I think you've explained that.
I think I did.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So, great. And so, what do you do now?
So now I've got several different jobs. So I'm basically a jobbing psychotherapist. So I have private clients, but I also work for a foster care agency, and I work with foster carers and children who have suffered trauma in their lives, and have usually very insecure attachments. So supporting that process of how these children can begin to create a safe base in their life and work through the trauma that they've experienced. That can take a long time. So I love that work. I also work for an organisation called Petros, which is is resilience for life. So resilience is emotional resilience is something that I am extremely interested in, and how play can support building resilience in our life. I'm currently running a project in a local primary school with children developing emotional resilience through what I've called play psychotherapy. And that's a piece of research. I work as a trainer for a child and adolescent psychotherapy training in London called Therapeutic. So I'm quite involved in that program, and I deliver the drama therapy and the play therapy aspects of that course, and also the part of the training on working with people who've experienced sexual abuse. And I've had several years of working in the NSPCC in a child sexual abuse consultancy. So that's kind of an area that I wouldn't say that I was an expert in, but it's working with trauma and abuse is something that I'm particularly drawn towards as a therapist in all forms. Yeah.
Thank you. And you're going to talk to us about play therapy in October at the Park Plaza. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your talk is about and what the audience will gain out of it?
Yes. So for me, I mean, in a way, the title of the book says it all about, releasing the gift of play in our lives. I think generally there is this idea that play is something that children do, and that as we become adults, excuse me, we have to kind of forget that part of ourselves and become very serious and focused on being a grown-up. And I think it is not only a myth, but I think it's an absolute tragedy. And there's a play theorist who I rate very highly called Brian Sutton Smith. And he asks the question, what is the opposite of play? And most people would say work. And he says it's depression. And I think I look around at the prevalence of people who are suffering from anxiety, from depression, from lots of different, diagnoses of mental health issues. And I ask myself this question, where is the play in your life? How do you play? Because play allows us on so many different ways to reconnect to ourselves, to be in the present moment, because play can only happen in the here and now. And how, when we are wounded, and we are all wounded to a greater or lesser degree, that play actually is the absolute ideal medium through which we can heal ourselves by working in an oblique way rather than directly talking about sexual abuse, which is potentially very dangerous for someone who's experienced that, because it is very likely to re-traumatize someone. What play allows us to do is to work obliquely, to work in a kind of a side way, whether it is through sculpting or through story or poetry or metaphor in some shape or form, that allows that person to touch into their wounding, but not to kind of become lost in that wounding. So it helps us to develop that witness consciousness part of ourselves that can come into relationship with those other parts, if you know what I mean. And for me, healing is about integration. It's about reconnection to those parts of us that are wounded, that are uncomfortable, that are shadowy, that are unpleasant, dark, shameful. It can allow us to reconnect to those parts, but in a safe way, without becoming overwhelmed or re-traumatized. And it's also about what happens in the relationship with the therapist. Of course it is. But when I think we kind of can internalize the therapist, we can do that work for ourselves as well. We don't have to always have that other person with us. That therapist becomes an internal part of ourselves. And so play is absolutely the kind of oil, really, for me, in the cogs of healing. That's how I can describe it.
Great.
And it just keeps revealing itself to me.
Wonderful. So have you thought about the Integrative Health Convention, where the audience will be made of doctors, therapists, and the public? Where do you see your particular practice fitting in with integrative health or holistic health?
For me, healing is about integration. So, and I think that play is ever present, actually. And I think everyone will kind of understand this sense that you can be in a relationship with someone, whether it is your doctor, and there's a moment of playfulness in that relationship, whether it is a word or a gesture or just a kind of look that someone gives you, and something inside you kind of goes, oh, this person's getting me. Does that make sense? And I think that kind of playful energy is very contagious. You also have to treat it with absolute respect. And so I'm not at all saying that you can go straight into working with someone and be kind of like this, but there are doctors, like clown doctors, for instance. Have you heard of clown doctors? Yeah. So they, their job is to administer medicines in very, conventional medicines, but in a way that is playful, that allows children to feel safe and can accept what the doctor is wanting to administer, because there's that connection there, that playful connection. So, play, just because I'm a play therapist doesn't mean that I have exclusive rights to play. Play belongs to all of us. And so whether we're doctors, midwives, other therapists, whoever we are, play can be very much part of that relationship.
Great. Di, I'm asking one last question. As a therapist with years of experience, what do you think in particular is the key to healing in what you do?
Okay, I've thought about this, but I didn't have to think about it for very long. It's about love.
Okay.
It's about loving kindness, what we call in Buddhism metta, and it is about self-acceptance, that this is who I am. All these aspects of myself, even the uncomfortable, shadowy, shameful aspects, are part and parcel of who I am as a human being. And how to kind of administer, in a way, loving kindness to myself, and to cultivate that. And when a client feels that from another person, therapist, but a doctor, there is a sense, I think, of I don't need to hide. I can allow myself to be who I am here. Even if I don't know who I am, I'm open to the possibility of discovering that without needing to close off and hide away. And I think the problem is, when we talk about love often, it can feel like a candy coating, you know, a kind of sweet, let's be nice to ourselves and have a bubble bath or something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually just being really, can we really be with who we are as human beings, with all that not very pleasant stuff. And metta, loving kindness, is one of what we call in Buddhism the Brahma Viharas, which is what they call illimitable minds. They are infinite, immeasurable. And so however big someone's suffering, the Brahma Vihara are always going to be bigger. And they belong to all of us. So for me, the key to healing is to just welcome and to cultivate the Brahma Vihara. And so there's loving kindness, but there's compassion, which we mentioned earlier, karuna. There's equanimity, upekkha, and then there's sympathetic joy, which is mudita. And sympathetic joy is described as being able to celebrate in the good fortune of someone else. So those for me are the keys to healing.
That's amazing. Thank you. And thank you everyone for taking the time to watch and listen to this interview. So remember to get your tickets early now from our website by following the links below. We are the Integrative Health Convention at the Park Plaza Victoria in London on the 5th and 6th of October 2019. You can use the discount code video5, which will give you a 5% discount as a gift from us to you for sharing your time with us. When we see you in October in London, you'll get to meet Di, myself, and all our other speakers, over 30 speakers, experts in their fields of health and healing, where they'll be sharing so much more with you then. Thank you. Thanks, Di.
Thank you.